News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Wednesday on Wall Street, where stocks rose as signs emerged that President Trump may be rethinking his aggressive stances on both trade and the Federal Reserve. We bring you those closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 gained 88 points. NASDAQ gained 408 points. The Dow gained 419 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.38% and the 2-year yield at 3.85%. Bloomberg Intelligence Chief Equity Strategist Gina Martin-Adams says the markets have rebounded, so now the S&P is back where it started earlier this month.
Put it in the big picture. I was looking at a chart of the S&P 500 today. We're right back where we were the day after Liberation Day. So we're right back to where we were as though Liberation Day didn't happen.
Bloomberg Intelligence Chief Equity Strategist Gina Martin-Adams tells Bloomberg Businessweek Daily it is important for investors to not get caught up in the day-to-day fluctuations of the market. Now, earlier, President Trump said he plans to be very nice to China in any trade talks and that tariffs will drop if the two countries can reach a deal. He spoke to reporters outside the White House.
We are going to have a fair deal with China. It's going to be fair.
Are you talking to them actively now?
Actively. Everything's active.
But then White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt tells Fox News that Trump is not softening on China tariffs.
I don't think that's fair to say. In fact, I spoke to the president about it this morning. He is not going to give up on ensuring that there are fair trade practices around the world. He is not giving up on the fact that China has been ripping off the United States of America for far too long.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says President Trump has not offered to take down U.S. tariffs on China on a unilateral basis. Still, Bessent says there's an opportunity to be had with China.
If China is serious on less dependence on export-led manufacturing growth and a rebalancing toward a domestic economy, and if they want to rebalance, let's do it together.
Secretary Bessent speaking at the Institute of International Finance. Bloomberg's Dan Fladley says it all adds up to a new message from the Trump administration.
The signaling is there that the U.S. is ready to negotiate. I mean, this is totally different from where we were just 3 weeks ago when this was like maximum leverage, maximum tariffs.
Bloomberg's Dan Fladley. Now, today's Beige Book indicates people are hunkering down, bracing for price hikes and supply chain disruptions as a result of Trump tariffs. Bloomberg's Mike McKee says this is a much more downbeat Beige Book than we've seen in recent months.
A lot of companies are concerned about what's going to be happening with the economy, economic activity. Little changed, the Beige Book says, but uncertainty around international trade policy was pervasive across reports. Auto sales were robust, but non-auto consumer spending was lower overall. Both business and leisure travel were down.
Bloomberg's Mike McKee tells Bloomberg Businessweek Daily there was little change in the labor market, hiring was slower, and there was a big decline for organizations that receive federal funding. President Trump is pressuring Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to accept a peace deal that critics fear will favor Moscow. The U.S. has presented a new proposal to end the war, which would effectively freeze the conflict largely along existing battle lines, recognize Russia's occupation of Crimea, and it would ease sanctions on Moscow. Zelensky has said that Ukraine will not recognize Crimea as Russian-occupied. Trump is accusing Zelensky of prolonging the war. Elon Musk's Neuralink is planning to raise about $500 million at a pre-money valuation of $8.5 billion. The company was valued at $3.5 billion in 2023. Sources tell Bloomberg the brain implant company has begun preliminary discussions with potential investors about the funding round. Sources tell Bloomberg Intel is poised to announce plans this week to cut more than 20% of its staff, aiming to eliminate bureaucracy at the struggling chip maker. Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow.
I still think there's a sense that Intel's bloated, right? And what our reporting and the source says is that this effort, this latest one, the 20%, is focused on middle management. So it's a bloat issue, but also a cultural issue.
Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow. Intel is to announce earnings tomorrow. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.